I want to welcome China's ambassador to Canada, Cong Peiwu. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with free trade or freer trade. What is the opportunity between the two countries? What kind of trade could we have that we don't have today?
You know that for China and Canada, the economic and trade relationship is mutually beneficial. So for the past 50 years, since we have established diplomatic relations, we have achieved a lot in this regard. Our trade volume had increased by nearly 500 times. So last year it was about 74 billion US dollars. So that was huge and delivered a lot of tangible benefits to our two peoples. When it comes to free trade, I think we are in support of free trade. That's very important. And actually, we have been engaged with the Canadian side on this issue in the recent years. And we achieved some of the consensus. But later on, because of some disruptions from the Canadian side, so the process was stalled. But still, we believe in the longer run, we have a lot to do when it comes to trade and economy, because when we are opening even wider to the outside, there's a lot of chances for the Canadian companies operating in China. So when we are achieving the green way of development for the Canadian government, for the Canadian companies, it has a unique advantage in this regard and many more.
Would you agree that the relationship is having a difficult time? There's a series of issues between the two countries, and it does seem on a diplomatic front as though tensions are running higher than they have in the past.
Yes, we are running difficulties. We are encountering difficulties. It is because of the Meng Wanzhou incident. And as we have suggested, the Meng Wanzhou incident was plotted by the United States. It was political in nature, and the purpose is trying to bring down Huawei, the high-tech industry, of China. And Canada, was acting as an accomplice of the United States and detained Madame Meng while she was breaking no Canadian law at all. So we are asking the Canadian side to reflect on that. And actually, an increasing number of insightful people here have come to realize the true nature of the issue. So more recently, more than 100 former diplomats wrote a letter to the Canadian government, suggesting the Canadian government to step in, to end the extradition process and to release Madame Meng. And that's in addition to 19 prominent figures here who wrote a letter, in a recent month. So we urge the Canadian government to properly settle the issue, to release Madame Meng as soon as possible, so our relationship can come back to the right track and we can tap into the great potential for our two countries.
It may be, Ambassador, that even some in China would wish that we hadn't played a role in the extradition order. But once we agreed to, which is part of a legal international treaty that we have with other nations, in this case the United States, once we engaged in the process, it is now in a process that no Canadian government would be very popular or be willing to circumvent, to try to meddle with. Does the Chinese government respect that fact, that there's a rule of law here and it is not a political issue? It is not up to our prime minister or ambassadors to free Ms. Meng?
I would like to emphasize the Madame Meng's incident. It's political in nature. So that has been seen through by a lot more people here in Canada and elsewhere. And I think that for the letter I mentioned, they also suggest that the government can do the right thing and that conforms to the rule of law. And I would like to suggest when it comes to the extradition treaty, the two sides, the Canada and the United States, actually abused this treaty. So there's nothing to do of rule of law here. It's about the political incident. And you can see the United States these days, they are using this kind of unilateral sanction and long arms jurisdiction against other countries, not only targeting against Huawei, but other high-tech Chinese enterprises like WeChat and TikTok. So it shows that it has the intention to suppress any Chinese company that is outperforming the United States. And that's very dangerous.
We do, of course, many in Canada are not sympathetic, partly because there are two Canadians now detained for more than a year, Michael Kovrick and Michael Spavor, without much due process in your country. What can you tell us about the willingness to release what are considered really, truly two innocent people?
For those two Canadian citizens, the Chinese judicial authorities are handling the case according to law, because they had been engaged in activities endangering China's national security. However, at the same time, we are ensuring their lawful rights are protected. So there's nothing like the arbitrary detention of them, because they had been suspected in those criminal activities. And at the same time, I would like to tell you that we have taken the measures within our legal system to ensure that their lawful rights are protected.
Is it fair to say, Ambassador, that they would have a better chance of release if Canada released Ms. Meng?
For Madame Meng, of course, her release certainly means that it's conducive for moving our relationship back to track, and that is conducive for us when it comes to those practical cooperation in multilateral or bilateral areas. That's important for the Canadian side to take the right step forward.
You mentioned the U.S. and its move against Huawei. Huawei, of course, is also still at the center of discussion in Canada around our 5G network, around the security of allowing its equipment. As we understand it, Huawei promised to sign documents that it wouldn't spy, that it would refrain from any kind of national security risk behavior. Do you still have hope that Huawei's equipment will be used in some countries that haven't already decided not to use it?
I think for Huawei, the history of that shows it has an excellent record when it comes to the security. So there's nothing like what the United States suggested. It has posed security threat. And on the contrary, no country, no institution, or no people can produce any evidence suggesting that it has those kind of threatening activities. And actually, for Huawei, it has stated on many occasions that it would like to have this kind of no backdoor, guarantee, for its partners. So I think it demonstrates its confidence when it comes to do business, either here in Canada or elsewhere. And I would like to suggest, for Huawei has operated in more than 170 countries and regions. It is most welcome in the world. And here in Canada, it also has a lot of very good working partners, and it's creating local jobs here, and it's helping those people in the northern areas to have the communication infrastructure like 4G. That's important for those people who are living in the remote areas. So I think for the United States, the true intention is actually to have those high-tech industries of China to be surprised. And while it's claiming it's building up a clean network, it's actually playing a dirty trick, of fighting against these Chinese high-tech industries. So for the United States, actually, it's the most dangerous one in the cybersecurity. So I suggest the Canadian government providing a fair, just, open, and non-discriminatory business environment to Huawei and other China industries. And that's important for boosting the confidence of investors here in Canada.
We have seen, you mentioned TikTok, and there are other Chinese companies that the U.S. Has definitely focused on with concerns about security. What kind of retaliatory measures might China take around companies like TikTok or ZTE or others?
Certainly, we are not afraid of this kind of provocation, and certainly we will take up firm and resolute measures to defend the legitimate rights and interests of our companies.